The funeral was supposed to be quiet. People were standing with their heads bowed, the kind of silence that only exists when everyone is afraid to breathe too loudly. Just as the pastor finished speaking, a sharp voice cut straight through the crowd. "Where's the will?" The words echoed, and every head turned at once. Standing there, completely unashamed, was the HOA president. She wasn't grieving. She wasn't even pretending. She was smiling, like this was a meeting she'd been waiting to attend. My grandfather had owned 900 acres of land for most of his life. Forest, open fields, a lake, and trails he carved out himself decades ago. Developers tried for years to buy it, and HOAs tried even harder to control it. He said no every single time. He believed land was meant to be protected, not carved into identical houses with matching mailboxes. When he passed, I knew things would get complicated. But I never imagined the HOA would show up at his funeral, ready to claim what wasn't theirs. The reason she asked about the will became clear almost immediately. If there was no will, the land would get tied up in probate. Years of legal delays. Years where the HOA could keep doing what they had already started doing behind the scenes. Roads had appeared near the boundary. Fences had been placed just far enough to look official. Little signs that said future community access were already standing on land they had no legal right to touch. They weren't waiting to see who inherited the property. They were assuming it wouldn't matter. A few days after the funeral, the violation notices started arriving. According to the HOA, the property was now in noncompliance. They cited old barns, natural fencing, and even shoreline access as violations of community rules. They fined the state for environmental neglect and unapproved land usage. The HOA president herself showed up to hand-deliver the paperwork, tapping her clipboard and telling me not to worry, because once probate cleared, they'd take care of the land properly. She spoke like the outcome was already decided. What she didn't realize was that my silence wasn't confusion or fear. It was strategy. I stopped responding completely. No emails, no phone calls, no arguments. I let the HOA continue digging their own hole while my attorney quietly prepared one document, a document my grandfather had finalized years earlier and stored exactly where it needed to be. The will didn't just name me as the sole heir. It included surveys, boundaries, water rights, mineral rights, and a clause that stated any unauthorized use of the land would result in full restitution at the trespasser's expense. The HOA meeting where everything collapsed was packed. Homeowners filled the room, expecting another routine update. The HOA president stood confidently at the front, ready to explain how the land issue was being handled. Then the screen behind her turned on. Satellite images appeared, showing every fence, every road, every structure the HOA had approved on my land, all of it outlined in red. My attorney stood and calmly asked the board if they still wanted to publicly question the existence of the will. That was the moment her confidence disappeared. When the will was presented, the room went silent. The documents were airtight. Worse for the HOA, the board itself had authorized construction and development on the land. That meant liability didn't fall on contractors or homeowners. It fell directly on the HOA. Insurance refused to cover intentional trespass. The reserve fund vanished almost overnight. Special assessments were issued, and board members started resigning one by one. The same HOA president who shouted, "Where's the will?" at a funeral was suddenly trying to explain why the community was drowning in legal fees. She fought it. She blamed contractors. She blamed misunderstandings. She claimed she was acting in the community's best interest. The judge wasn't impressed. The ruling was clear. The HOA was responsible for removing everything they built, restoring the land, and covering damages. When the assessments came due, the HOA president couldn't afford the mess she created. She lost her position first, then the lawsuit, and eventually her own home when the cost she caused came back to her. A month later, I walked the land alone. The fences were gone. The signs were gone. All that remained were the trees my grandfather planted and the lake he spent his mornings fishing beside. At the edge of the property, I placed a simple marker that read, "Private land, no HOA authority." Standing there, I finally understood something. She didn't lose everything because of a will. She lost everything because she believed entitlement was stronger than ownership.